Hi, it's Elizabeth. I've had several people ask me about what precious metal clay is and what silver clay is, and I wanted to just give you a little brief overview of what it is. Here's one piece that I made with precious metal clay, fine silver clay. And here are a couple of rings that I made using the same mold of a old check glass button. And another example of something that I've made that and you see all these textured links? Those were made with the precious metal clay, and the wire links were made with fine silver, and I fused them. Okay. So I think that you can see one of the advantages of using precious metal clay over just sheet silver. It's quite easy to get the texture into it, and it's easy to build shapes like that house. No soldering required. It is, I'm not going to say that it's better, because it's not. It's just another tool in your toolbox if you're a jeweler, or if you are a arts and crafts person who likes to try things out. It's a really fun medium to work with. Now, there are several brands. This is the brand that I have currently, Mitsubishi Materials, and it's called PMC3, which is precious metal clay. And they have a couple of different formulations. You can also get copper clay and bronze clay. I do not currently have those. It's a little bit of a different process to go through, but just wanted to let you know that's out there. Okay, so basically, I'm not going to open this, but within this little Ziploc container there is a piece of, I'm going to call it putty, and it's wrapped in plastic, tightly in plastic. So you need to figure out what it is that you are going to make before opening up this package, because the clay dries out quickly, and you can wrap it in plastic or keep it in something with a drop of water, but it's never as good as it is coming straight from the package. Okay, you can get them in different gram weights, and yeah. So when you are using it, you just take out as much as you need. You need to put a little olive oil or another kind of release agent on your hands. You just rub it on your hands so that the clay doesn't stick. And you can work on a mat like this. This is a Teflon sheet, so it's, it's non-stick. And you can work with a roller like this, also putting olive oil on it, and you can roll out the clay if you want to do something that's flat. So you can just go ahead and roll out the clay here, and then you can use it's basically a long razor blade. Sorry I didn't get that out to show you, to cut straight lines, and you can use various clay cutting tools like this, or cookie cutters. to make shapes. So for example, these type of links were made by having a sheet of clay, rolling it against a texture plate or a rubber stamp that also has olive oil on it. So it picks up the texture. You can do both sides at one time if you want, or you can leave one side plain. And then you cut out, then I cut out the shapes using various sizes of these little circle cutters. And then, you know, just work with them just a little bit to make sure that there's nothing weird, and so that they dry flat. And then you let them dry. And once they are dry, what you can do is you can fire it. Now, I didn't talk about this. The precious metal clay, silver clay, is made up of silver particles and an organic binder. Now, the binder is what turns it into the clay, or like the putty that you actually work with. But then when you fire a dry piece, all of that binder goes away and you're left with a fine silver piece of metal that you can do with whatever you want. So when you go to fire it, you can use like a creme brulee torch, or you can use a kiln. I have both. With a kiln, you can go a little bit slower, so that helps in certain techniques, but you don't have to invest in a kiln in order to be able to use precious metal clay, the silver type anyways. Anyways, once it's fired and all the stuff has burned out, then you wait for it to cool, or you can quench it in a bowl of water, and then it's gonna come out, and it's gonna come out looking like this. However, it's going to be white, not silver. And so the next step that you have to do is to use a brass brush like this, and you just rub it on the piece, and it will make all of those silver particles lay down so that they appear silver instead of white. And that is basically it. I mean, you can work with it when it's wet. You can sand it and do things with it when it's dry before firing, and then you can work with it as you would work with regular sheet or wire silver after it's been fired. Okay, and I just wanted to show a couple of things here. Here are two molds that I made off of the same vintage check button, and this one is made out of polymer clay, and it does not bend. It makes just a fine mold. However, if you want to be a little bit more professional, you can get a 2-part mold making medium, and you can make flexible molds. Okay, and if you want to use these, you need to coat them with a little bit of olive oil, and then you take your little ball of clay and squish it in there and then peel it back, and then it has the design on it. Okay. And they'll take you through, like, this piece has a different texture on the different sorts of walls, and different texture here and different texture on the roof. So it's real easy to get those textures. You just need to have a stamp or a texture plate, which is like a piece of plastic with the design on it. And then what I wanted to tell you about is different clays have different amounts that they shrink when that binder burns off. Okay, so I have this little ruler that shows PMC plus and PMC 3, which I have PMC 3. It shrinks 12% smaller after it's fired. Okay, and like the original PMC shrinks 28% smaller, and this ruler helps you imagine what size something's going to be once it's fired. I have never actually used that. I just make stuff. but if you are an exacting person, you can get a much better idea of what size something's going to turn out. So it's a little bit like a shrinky dink, you know, where you draw a picture big and you put it in your oven and it shrinks up tiny. This does not shrink nearly as much as a shrinky dink, but it's reminiscent of the process. Okay. And I wanted to show a couple of books that I have on the subject. Metal Clay Jewelry by Louise Dumel, or Duhamel. And this book is chock full of projects where she takes you step by step through how to make different pieces of jewelry. Okay. And she teaches you how to actually work with the clay, and how to troubleshoot what's going on. You know, here's one of the projects in there. Is well, actually, I don't think that's a project that's in here, but a picture of something that she's made. These cute boots. You know, and there are different forms of the clay. You can get it in a sheet form. You can get it in a paste form. And I have not worked with it in quite a while, and I have not looked into the advances in the products in quite a while, but I'm sure there have been advances and changes, but this will give you an idea of what it is and what it looks like, how to identify it, and if you want to actually try it yourself, it gives you an idea of some of the things that you would need to purchase. Shows how to make this beautiful pendant. It's not a beginner pendant, but it is in the book. Now shows how to make this kind of a keyhole pendant. more advanced type of a pendant with a stone set in it. And depending on which clay you buy and which method you use to fire it, you can actually use certain gemstones in the clay. Otherwise, you can just create a bezel and set the gemstone after you've fired it. Okay, that's all I want to show you in that book, but it is a good book. And the other book I did a video on before, I think. It's Sculptural Metal Clay Jewelry by Mckinnon. Okay, and I did a workshop with her, one-on-one, and it was fantastic. Learned a lot. I think I made this house and I made this chain when I was with her. And anyways, she has a little bit of a different technique of working with the clay. But she goes through all the materials and how you actually can fire oddly shaped things. You know, and she's got projects in here for like how to make bead caps and clasps and all sorts of things. But at the time, she was known for more of her house building sort of jewelry. She teaches you how to build boxes. At any rate, it's everything that you would need to know how to do to work with the clay. It's just a slightly different approach than in the other book, but they are both great. Okay, so once again, that's Sculptural Metal Clay Jewelry by Mckinnon and Metal Clay Jewelry by Louise Dumel. Okay, I hope this was helpful and I hope it was interesting, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye!